And welcome to the very first episode of the Lessons from Success podcast, guys. I'm your host, Bryn Turner, and today we're doing a little bit of an introduction on the show. So we'll start with a little bit of a background on what the show is exactly, and definitely a little bit of a background on myself as well, and why I've gone ahead and created this passion project. And we'll also talk about who it's for, and we'll go into the details about, why should you bother listening to me in the first place, and definitely the plans where you can find all the episodes online and on the different platforms we'll be on as well. Alrighty, well, without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So let's start with a little bit of a background on myself. My name is Bryn Turner, and I'm a young entrepreneur here in Brisbane. And throughout my life so far, I've definitely suffered from a fair bit of business ADD. Haven't been able to focus on one idea for a long period of time, and I definitely have a bit of an overall lack of direction on where I'd like to go. What's benefited me the most was organising meetings with these other successful people and entrepreneurs in my area, and really just discussing their life story, from their hardships to how they've become so successful today, and basically everything in between as well. It's definitely given me a boost in motivation when I've needed it, especially when I'm feeling down on an idea or in general. And hearing these stories, it really does humanize the whole road to achieving whatever goal you may have, and it does create that belief that success can be attainable. After looking online for relatable content from successful people throughout Australia, I've struggled to find anything good from our own shores. There's definitely a heap of awesome content coming in from the USA and the UK, but when it comes to our backyard, there isn't really much going on. I do always feel that there is a disconnect as well when listening to the international success stories, so I really wanted to offer you guys the same opportunities that I've had. Let me do the hard work by finding the guests and asking all those hard questions, or you enjoy it all for free from your phones, laptops and tablets. The criteria for our guests is pretty simple. They must be highly successful in whatever their field is, and they definitely have to be happy and content with what they're doing, for the majority of the time anyway. Our plan is to get a new guest on each episode and go deep into their successes, their failures, their hardships, and so on and so forth. The structure is going to be a very sort of conversational sort of setting, not going to have a list of questions where we just rattle off, and the idea is to make the guests as relatable as I possibly can, and that way you can learn, you can relate and replicate from all their experiences. So who is our podcast for? Honestly, our guests are going to be extremely diverse. We're going to have tech multimillionaires to spiritual experts and everything in between. This will allow you to get a very fresh and unique perspective on life's journey and how you can best tackle your own personal journey as well. Some of my favorite lessons personally have come from places that I would have honestly never thought to look. From being forced into a Tony Robbins seminar to meeting meditation gurus unexpectedly overseas, I'll honestly be the first to tell you that life's lessons come from the weirdest sources and places. My podcast is essentially for anyone that wants to improve from where they are now, whether it be business, happiness, or just plain motivation. I promise to deliver you guys awesome content and help you on your journey, regardless of if you're just getting started or if you're already a success in your own right. It honestly doesn't matter. So why should you bother listening to my podcast? Honestly, it's such a good question. I do believe that your time is exceptionally valuable, and I do promise to deliver some awesome content. Where I'm going to differ from everyone else is I'm going to get my guests to go extremely deep and personal on the path and where they are now, I should say. The people I'll be interviewing are often extremely busy and hard to get a hold of, and their advice will all be unique to the personal situation and not something you find in the standard sort of Facebook life coach or the crappy Instagram boosted promotions. These lessons that they have come from building empires and mastering skills, and I find when people do that, you really do get a level of authenticity that it's just unparalleled by those without the grit that they've achieved over time. Now, as for the smaller sort of details, the podcast will be published directly on my website at lessonsfromsuccess.com.au. We'll also have it up on all the standard platforms as well, such as iTunes, Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, and those sorts of things. The easiest way to be notified will be to jump onto the website and subscribe to my mailing list. I do promise to not spam you with absolute crap all the time, and you'll only really be alerted when I've learned something that's absolutely incredible, or if there's a new episode that's being launched. And that's pretty much it for me today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm really excited to launch the first episode later this month. So I look forward to you all staying tuned, and you'll have an episode from me before December 31st. Thank you so much.